Hey everybody, this is Patrick with Book Buying Side Gig. I wanted to make a video about a title that I came across this week when I was out picking. I was at an estate sale on Saturday. I came across a title, The Road to Mecca, 1916 first edition. I was kind of on the fence about whether or not to get it, so I decided to do a quick eBay search, and I came up with this listing for $2,500. And I thought, well, now I'm going to get it because at very least I can make a video about what's going on with this listing and the pricing. So spoiler alert, the book is not worth $2,500. It's worth probably a good bit less than that. And we'll kind of talk about that in this video. I want to talk about kind of what might be going on with the pricing, how we can kind of tease out what is actually a more realistic price, some of the tools that we can use, and then some of the tools that we can use to set up a fair and reasonable price when there aren't examples of the item that we have. Because one of the worst things I think you can do is to take a book that is not worth $2,500 and price it at that, because it's just going to sit for ages and ages and ages, and we don't want that as book resellers. You know, we're not looking to get a book that's just going to sit for the rest of our lives on a bookshelf, and that is likely what's going to happen with this book if the price remains that high. So you may have come across this before, this sort of thing before. I see it a lot with poetry books. I'll get on there. There'll be poetry books in the few $100 range, and then a few others kind of within that range, but a little bit lower. Sometimes those books are actually valued that high, but most of the time what's happening is somebody's going on, they're not finding their book, and so they're just assigning kind of a random, price of $350, give or take. And then somebody else comes on with the same book and goes, oh, wow, my book's worth $350. Well, I don't need $350. I'll take $300. And they price it. And then the next person comes and undercuts them. And maybe by the end of it, you have 4 or 5 books all kind of priced between $250 and $350, when really that book is probably valued at more like $30 to $40. So if you can recognize that, then you can avoid making bad deals. Because what you don't want is a seller who goes on, sees those prices, and then prices their item accordingly, right? You wouldn't want to show up at an estate sale where this Road to Mecca book is priced at $100. You look it up and you think, wow, there's a ton of money for me to make. I'll buy it at $100. I'll list it at $1,000. You'll be sitting on it for ages, or probably forever, really. So, but if you can recognize that, oh, these other ones are priced in the hundreds, but this is probably a $30 book, you can price yours appropriately, and it's going to be the one that sells while all those others sit. So the first place that I started in thinking about The Road to Mecca was, this is a book published in 1916. It's a first edition. I am familiar with Florence Irwin because I have a book from her that she wrote the following year called The Mask. And if it's not listed already, it may have sold, it may not be listed, but I've had it at some point. So I had familiarity with who she was, but also recognized that she is not a household name of American authors. So I decided to actually look up The Sun Also Rises, first book written by Ernest Hemingway, right? One of the best known authors in American literature. His first book, first edition, first printing, I can buy a copy of it for less than the $2,500. So that is one of the first signs that The Road to Mecca is way overvalued, right? If I can get a copy of The Sun Also Rises for $2,200, then I shouldn't be paying $25 for The Road to Mecca. Now, if we look at the listing, there's one thing that stuck out to me, which was first edition that is housed by only 6 libraries in the world. Now, where is this number coming from? Where is this statement coming from? My guess is that the seller went to worldcat.org and did a search there. Now, what is WorldCat? If you're not familiar with it, it is a worldwide catalog or database of library catalogs. So a whole bunch of libraries input most, if not all, of their catalog collections into this database, and then you or I or anyone else can go on and search for a certain item. So it's a super useful tool, especially for establishing just how many kind of are out there. Now, it is not complete. There are libraries that don't participate in WorldCat. There are libraries that don't have all of their holdings uploaded into WorldCat. But overall, it can be a really good starting place. And if we go to advanced search and we search for the road to Mecca, got some extra capitalization, but that's okay. We do Irwin. We want to make sure that we are getting the first edition. So we're just going to do 1916. And we get one that comes up. We click on that. And we scroll down and we see 6 results. And this is likely where that figure came from. That seller saw 6. They said, great, this is 6 places worldwide. It's super rare. They may have overlooked that this was 6 out of 44. Okay, now, is it possible some of these could be online editions? Is it possible some could be a miscatalogued facsimile? Yes. Is it likely that most of them are that? No. In all likelihood, most of those 44 are the same edition of the Road to Mecca that we have. All right. So it's a small little error, but when you're basing the pricing off of the WorldCat results, it's actually kind of a huge error there. 44 is not an enormous number of copies available, but it's by no means ultra rare. You know, again, it's something where it might be collectible to the certain person, but again, there's a fair number out there. Now, the other thing that was mentioned in there is the seller talked about that the only other books in commerce were facsimiles, more recent facsimiles. And I don't know the database that they use to determine this. I use one called Via Libri. This is, in my opinion, one of the best. It searches an enormous number of book-selling sites. And if I do a search for Irwin and the road to Mecca, and I'll just do the search without the years. So vialibri.net is a really good resource to keep in mind. And you can see it searches 145 sources, found 5 matches. So we have the gem of our video right here as the first match. And then as we go down, we see reprints, right? 2018 says classic reprint, 2015. So these are facsimiles, okay? Now, why are they priced at that amount? Who knows? Are they print on demand? Are they already printed? I don't know. Generally, facsimile reprints, you know, it's somebody who might want to read the book and can't get it otherwise, or it's like this where there's just not a ton of them out there, and then they're like, oh, well, I'll pay these $60 or $40 or whatever. I don't know why one is priced at $8.16, but there's probably a whole host of reasons why it might be. But ultimately, there's one book out there, okay, The Road to Mecca. So again, you could get the impression that there are none on eBay. There are none in the sold section of eBay. Maybe they did some additional searching on some other auction sites or for sale sites or things like that and didn't find anything. And so they came to the conclusion that this is an extraordinarily rare book. It is going to be an extraordinarily sought after book, and I can put a really, really big price on it. Okay. Let's talk about how we would actually go about pricing this book. First thing is we need to figure out who Florence Irwin is, okay? Now, I did a Google search, and about halfway down was a little wiki source page. She's a United States journalist who wrote a column on Auction Bridge for the New York Times. So she's not a completely unknown person. She was a writer, and, you know, but she's not, again, a household name, okay? If we come back over to Libri, we can use it now to actually get rid of the Road to Mecca, and we'll just search for the author, Florence Irwin. We'll see some of the other books that have come up and what they are selling for. And we have this set up, price highest first, okay? So we see there's our Road to Mecca for $2,500, and then the classic reprint. And then we get into some of the other books she's written. Okay, she wrote a cooking book. There's some various prices there. Mahjong book. We go down to The Bridge for Thinkers. So she's got some different nonfiction books that she's written. And as we scroll down, we see the kind of starting price of those is reasonably around 150, and then going down from there. You'd have to look closer to see what's what. There might be condition issues, there might be certain editions, things like that. You can figure it out if you were interested in a single book. If we keep scrolling down, we eventually get to the first listed work of fiction that she has, which is The Mask. Okay, a 1917 novel. This is a first edition, first printing. It is listed at 65. So this actually gives us a really good kind of comparison. This book was written a year later. It's kind of similar in structure and printing and condition to The Road to Mecca, and it's a first. So if we go back up to the top, and we use The Mask to compare. Then we come up with that first one that we saw, and then we can go through and we can see the prices go down from there. Okay, now here are some with pictures, and there's some condition issues that get down to about $14. But somewhere between reasonably $15 and $65 is where a very similar book to The Road to Mecca would be priced. So again, this gives you at least a range that you could price it in. For me, I would probably put The Road to Mecca somewhere in the range of $20 to $25 if I were just listing it. If there were no other listings, I would list it at that. Now, what am I going to do in this case? Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to use this listing that is at $2,500 and see if I can get a little bit more out of it. And I'm probably going to list my copy at about $40. And with a best offer option, and hope for a couple of things to happen. Either A, the person who is collecting Florence Irwin first editions will come along, or somebody who's collecting the Knickerbocker Press first editions will come along, and $40 might be a little high. Maybe it's reasonable, maybe it's a little high, and they make an offer for $20 to $30, and I'm happy to take that. Okay. Or somebody comes along and sees, oh, there's a book for $2,500. This person doesn't know what they have. I will gladly book. And then have a $2,500 book sitting on their bookshelf. They can relist it themselves and try to get however much absurd amount of money that they want to try to get for it, or whatever the case is. But in any case, that's really kind of the saga of The Road to Mecca that I was thinking about as I bought that book and was kind of thinking about it from this weekend, and just wanted to share it with you guys because I think that situations like this come up, relatively often on eBay, and it's a good chance for us to kind of look at how we can determine value of a book and the tools between WorldCat and Via Libre that are at our disposal. So I hope you found this useful. If you did and you liked the video, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video. If you have questions or comments below, please leave them and I will try to respond back. So thanks for watching. And